Well, hello. Hey, welcome to the Learn Podcast Production Podcast. My name is Toby Lyles, and I'm here at 24 Sound. Looking forward to going through another one with you. And I just want to say we're growing. So congratulations us as a podcast. It is growing. I don't know if this will ever be a huge podcast, but I do want it to be a deep and meaningful podcast. I want people to actually get something out of this podcast, and I feel like we're even getting closer to that. In fact, I'm a little bit hesitant to go through our topic today simply because I'm not sure. What I really like to do is give good content. But nonetheless, I've had a few people ask, what do we do? And I realize that in the 100 or so episodes that we've done, I actually have never really described what we as a company do here at 24 Sound. So I just want to explain what we do. And what's available, not really as a sales pitch, but simply just to answer the questions. I think some people we just wonder what's on the back end. And so my apologies for hiding some of that. I didn't intend to. I just wanted to create a podcast that was very clear and focused on how to build your own podcast and your own brand. In fact, my goal is to help other podcast production companies grow and become more available to the general public, and for those who are building podcast brands themselves, how to do this very well. So there's a lot of companies being built off of this podcast. There's a lot of people making money off this podcast, and that is success for me. So who are we? Well, this company started as a podcast production company. So it started only as podcast production. So technical editing. I came from a live background. I'm super, very adept at solving technical problems. And you probably figured that out. I can solve technical problems, and I was pretty good with people. And so that led me to a live sound career. And then we transitioned, and by the grace of God, we moved, and we're doing this. And it's just as far as the company, as far as me personally, this company helps me to be home and available to the people I love the most. And that's a big driving reason why choosing this path versus other paths, i.e. the paths where you fly all around the world and do audio, because really that's not as fun. So I've had to really clarify myself in the process. Interestingly, I've learned to help other people clarify their own messaging and their own selves in the process. So that's where we've come today. So started as full, just an editing company. And in the process, we've helped some people build some brands and found some giftings that I didn't even know that I had, that we as a company could have. So the first to start out, we do technical consulting. So technical consulting is two pieces. One, when people talk to us, they are, the first thing that they need is gear. They often just need gear. Now, they don't know if they need gear, but I've ranted at length on how you can just buy something standard from some blog that you read, or you can really get what fits you and fits your voice. Well, my goal is to find something that fits you and fits your voice. So we help you with the audio side. Now that can be, and everybody has not just their voice, but they have specific technical needs. So somebody wants to use it with video. Somebody else wants to. Somebody else just needs to record it, but they're recording remote. Somebody else is recording live interviews in noisy environments. And so every situation requires different equipment, and as well as the tone of their podcast, the nature of what they're trying to convey their audience, that all plays a impact into what gear you get. And so it's like this higher level, what is it saying kind of a thing, and simply just what's going to work for you and what won't work for you, down to their technical abilities. How much of this stuff are they going to be able to handle and connect, and how much is it just going to be too much? It's just not fair to ask them that of them. So technical consulting, and then or the microphone equipment side, and that can even include how the guests record and all of that in connection. And then we do for some who are podcast producers or who are already in this, we show them how to do it on their own. So how do you build a podcast brand? How do you train your employees? So we help train people's employees. We help Gosh, what have we done? We've helped, train volunteers. So somebody who was like in the middle between hiring somebody and doing it themselves. They're like, well, I've got a volunteer, somebody who an assistant. So we help train assistants. So we kind of like help people in different areas, as well as somebody who's just really good and they're like, I want to get better. And so then we'll talk with them too. So it's how to do the equipment side and then the software side. How do you produce this well? How do you get to the right loudness levels? How do you make it sound great, and blah blah blah, the stuff that we talk about. So that's a lot of what we do. We do a lot of consulting, and I love it. I love solving people's problems. So come to me, you got problems, you want to know how to do this right. I love talking to you, and we sit down, we figure it out, and solve your problems. I even have a course about it, obviously, about how to do this well, and I'm considering other courses. So I like doing it. Okay. The second thing we do is podcast design. So a lot of people, you're going to start a podcast, but what is it supposed to do? What is it supposed to mean? How are you supposed to communicate it? They just want to know how to do it right. These are folks who aren't as DIY. Well, they're DIY, but they're not as, what's the word, scrappy. These are people who want to do it right. So these are higher level people who are like I've got this platform, I'm already out there, and I'm already successful in a number of areas. And this one needs to start right. I can't start this lame. I want to start this right. I want my messaging to be right. I want my intro to be right. And they understand that it's not, you just can't get an intro from whoever, wherever. You need to get the right one that fits you. And they just want somebody to walk them through. So we walk through it. So what is your messaging? Who is your message to? How do you talk? How do you communicate? What's okay to spill the beans on? What should you keep a little closer to yourself? Boy, there's so much involved in that. So just what are you going to sound like? Of course, the equipment ties into that. There's the sound, there's the sound, and there's the other sound, the how you sound. So defining your audience and how do you speak to that audience, and what's the best way to build your messaging around that. Oh, even taglines. I didn't mention that. We built some taglines for people, some fun, like here's who we are in just 2 or 3 words. It's not a title, it's a tagline. It's go out and make the world sound great. Maybe not the best tagline in the world, but it's how I feel about it. Like, this is for you to, go do something with. And your persona, I just maybe mention that, but just, some people are like, oh, I have too many ums, and I just don't feel like I'm, they just have a hard time with who they are. Like, we're us. And so we sometimes need some help at saying, for somebody else to say, this is who you're presenting yourself as. How do we sculpt your sound around that? How do you speak around that? Sometimes it's simply just saying you need to slow down for a little bit, and that's who you're and that helps you communicate who you are. Sometimes it's defining in advance. Hey, you are a father to these people. You thought you were going to learn, but really you're a teacher. What are some other examples? Just kind of like defining who they are to their audience. And sometimes we need help with that. I need help with that. That's for sure. So it's nice to have somebody else speaking into your life, to saying, hey, this is actually who you are. This is who you're communicating. Now, not everybody has that. Not everybody needs that. But that is certainly what, that we'd love to provide for people. So that, and then podcast strategy. So like, how do you do this right? How do you edit well? How do you do your editing workflow, your recording workflow? Just the kind of the nitty gritty, how to do that well. How are you gonna, like, what do you say? Like, go out and everybody go subscribe. How do you do your funnel? Where do you drive people to? How do you do your website? Like, what do they need to click on with your website? What's the logistics? What's the podcast for? What's the whole overall idea? What's this overall strategy? What's how are you going to monetize it? Because monetizing plays into how you can present yourself and what your podcast is going to become. What's the pros and cons of that? So we help people kind of like go through the minefield of what should I do? Ads? Should I create something? If I created something, what would I create? And we help people find it. Well, who are you and what are you going to create? So we'll sit down with somebody. They'll pay us some consulting fee, and we'll sit down with them and figure out how they can make some serious money with this podcast. Launching strategy. This is, I'm no marketer by background, but we've been around long enough to know here's a few things that you need to do to get launched right. And so we just make sure that you're doing those things. And most people have a lot of that together already, but we just make sure you have the right team in place. Make sure, so you don't end up, the purpose of this is so once you record, like it works, right? Like you're recording in time. You don't find yourself underwater with recordings or late in your recordings or the usual pitfalls. So that's the strategy. And then we'll finally through to the editing. So we do the production side of the last. So that's what we've been doing forever, right? So, and that usually falls after we're coached somebody through the process. And then once we've coached everybody through, we've done all this work up front, they're like, you know what? We'd like to work. And I say, you know what? I really like you too. So let's do the production side. So the production usually falls after all the consulting. I should also take a moment to stop and mention that we don't just do podcasts. We also do audio trainings. We do other forms of audio marketing. We do a lot of storytelling, and we can help you tell stories. So a lot of corporations or businesses often have these brilliant stories, but truly don't get those stories out into the public. They don't even know how to tell their story. So we help you tell your story, help you with audio. If you don't know, audio is like, video is a very, very cool way to tell stories, and there's some powerful ways to do that. But there are some stories that really need to be told over audio only because there's this trust factor that's built with that. So we do a lot of storytelling, so helping companies tell the stories and really reach their people, as well as that whole training side. We do some other audio products. We do audiobooks, and we've talked about that, and some other things kind of like that. So we can do some real high-end stuff. We haven't done a lot of like TV stuff, a lot of documentary. We haven't done, so there's a lot of places we don't go that we probably could, but that's kind of where we focus. Just to wrap it up, we're doing equipment/software consulting. We're doing podcast creation, the audio branding side, this whole brainstorming. What is your podcast going to be? What's the strategy behind your podcast? How do you do your podcast? And then launching. How do you get it out to the world? And we can take you through 0 to 60. We also do a few side projects as well. We are currently building a podcast around inventions. That's taking a little bit of time. That'll come. And we have some courses that you can take, and we're going to try to build that up more. I love the courses because it helps people access us. It helps people become successful faster and easier. So it's a lower priced course. They can get it without paying, and it's time wise. It can even be faster too. So I just love the different levels and just trying to get people to where they need to go. So that's it. If you have any questions, please call us. I always say that, 24sound.com, all one word, all spelled out, TWENTYFOURSOUND.com. Give us a call, shoot us an email. I'd love to talk to you. So that's it. I hope that is helpful to all. As always, I'd love to know what you do. If you have a podcast production company and you feel like you've got some other strategies alongside of it, or you're building other brands in the process, or kind of what you're doing, because a lot of people handle this in different ways. So I'd love to know more about that. So please just let me know who you are, where you're at, and how you're doing your podcast production company, even if it's standard. Love to. And again, I like talking to you guys on the podcast. So I feel like we all learn from each other. So that's it. Thank you so much. Go out, make the world sound great.